Hello, everyone. This is MMA Interesting Prospects podcast. Today, our guest is Amun Cosme, one of the UFL contender in bantamweight division. Hello, Amun. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, brother?
I'm good, thanks. You will be fighting against a very, very tough opponent in just few weeks. It's LFA veteran Justin Wetzel. So,
All
if you
right.
can tell me how your camp is going right now, and what we can expect from your performance.
Okay, so I give you two things. So in the fight game, uh, be prepared for everything. So my opponent switched. So Justin will not be fighting. I'll actually be fighting a different gentleman. His name is Hunter Azor. Hunter Azor. So we got a replacement. We found out about 2 weeks ago that Justin couldn't fight. We're not sure what happened. It's not my job to speculate. My job is to focus on me and my training. But he wouldn't be able to fight that the UFL 4. So they end up getting Hunter Azor. And Hunter Azor actually had 4 fights total with the UFC. It was fight night as well as on the Tough House. So that'll be my opponent. He's 10-3. So we're gonna have to kind of go back to the drawing board and come up with a new game plan. But yeah, I'm equally as excited about this one. I'm a little bit hurt because I wanted to fight Wetzel because he beat his side of the bracket, but he won't be able to fight, so I'll be fighting Hunter Azor. So that's kind of the update. You're getting it live right now.
It's actually interesting thing, but I think that maybe not skill wise, but definitely name wise, he is a better opponent because, like you said, he's a UFC veteran. He actually got a win over Brad Katona when he was in the
Uh-huh.
UFC, so it's a really big name.
Yeah, so for me, it's better, and it who knows? They didn't fight each other, so I don't know whose skill set is better. And plus, MMA math doesn't work out like that. Just because somebody beats somebody doesn't mean I can beat them. So it's always different depending on. They always say matchups make fights, and it's like, hey, Justin Wetzel was good. He was kind of a grinded out kind of guy. Find a way to the back, ground and pound. Hunter Azor has nice little wrestling and good grappling, different stature than Justin Wetzel. So he'll present some different obstacles that we'll be able to kind of put together, and we'll put all that in as far as game plan. My team has looked at them, but we're getting together this week to put our actual game plan when we do our film study all together as a team. Like all three of my coaches and corner and myself will all go in. We'll do a film study day where we sit down and we'll look and say, okay, this guy presents X, Y, and Z. This is what I present, and this is what we'll do. But I'm actually I still want the Justin Wetzel fight, but I got even more excited when I'm like, yeah, I'm fighting a UFC vet. Like, what better way to feel like to prove yourself against an opponent who's already fought for the top promotion ever in mixed martial arts and has win there as well. It's not like he just went there and then also he has win there as well. So it's like that gets me excited in the morning when I wake up and I'm hurting from training. I'm like, nope, I got a guy out there who's looking to make me his stepping stone back to the UFC, and I don't plan on letting that happen. So
He's a very good fighter, and I think that also for you it's a big challenge. And because of it is a big challenge, you can put your best
yeah,
performance because you know how dangerous he is.
yes, I like that. I like for me. My whole amateur career leading into my pro career. If you look at my opponents, like I've never been built up. Like there's never been like, hey, let's just kind of get you to fight a guy we know you can beat. That has not happened in my career. If there's anyone that has like a record, disparity is like maybe it was like last minute because an opponent dropped out and that was all we could find. But there's never been a time where we was like, hey, we're gonna get Moon pretty much easy fights to like build his record up. I've been fighting top contenders and the toughest guys in the Southeast to then across the US and then guys from other countries all the way from an amateur all the way to a pro. So when I get a guy who's has a good skill set, who's already proven, that gets me more excited to put my best performance out there because it's always better to lose against a great opponent than it is to just demolish a weaker opponent. So it's like, hey, you want to bring your A game because this guy is going to present many opportunities for him to win the fight. So you want to dominate the good guys. And when you dominate the good guys, that's when you really get that boost in your career. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for no like easy dubs. Like before Justin Wetzel was a hard fight. Now this guy's a hard fight. So I'm like, hey, we're at the point in the career where there aren't going to be any easy dubs. And if you want to make it to that level, that next level of a mixed martial artist, you're going to have to fight these guys. So this guy gets me excited to show up on the 27th.
And I think that it's like big like kudos for UFL that they can bring this kind of talent
Yeah,
in the quite
yeah,
short notice.
yeah, yeah. So it wasn't too short notice because when they found out, they let my team know as soon as possible. So by the time everybody was aware, we're about 9 weeks out. So it wasn't like, it was like 3 weeks away or 4 weeks away, which I'm glad because we're scheduled for a title fight, which is 5 5-minute rounds. So I'm like, hey, if you're 5 5s, you're not going to get a lot of people that's going to accept a 5 5 on short notice. So like, they gave both parties an ample amount of time to prepare for the fight. So it's like, hey, we both got 9 weeks. We're both going there and give this training camp everything, and then look to perform on April 27th. So.
And when you are in the training camp, how like much of the time do you spend on like thinking and training on what you plan to do, and how much of the time you like doing what you can like use as the defense for your opponent's strengths?
So number one thing, I absolutely hate fighting not to win. That's like, I'm not doing that, right? So it's like, say you're good at whatever, your striking is really good, or you got a good overhand right or a good leg kick. I want to be aware of that, but I'm not going to make my whole game plan on stopping the one thing you're good at. Like, I want you to fight my fight. That's playing into your hands. That's me being defensive and waiting for you, waiting for your strong suit. I want to be aware of what you're strong at, and I don't want to avoid that. I want to train in those areas where where you'll be strong and I would be weak. But ultimately, I want my opponent to fight my fight. I want you to fight my fight. And the good thing about my team and like what I present as a fighter is I'm a very well-rounded fighter. I can fight on the cage, I can fight in the middle of the ring, I can strike, I can grapple, I can wrestle, I can do jujitsu, I can combine all these things. And so I feel like my skill set allows me to fight everywhere. And if you're good at this area, but you're weak at this area, then my game plan is to take you where I have the highest chance of winning. So I would say for me, it's like an 80-20, 80% focusing on my game and 20% making sure I'm aware of what they're good at so I can have something in place to counter it. For instance, we knew in the UFL 1 where I got the knockout in the first round of Jackson Santa Cruz, we know this guy was a really big, strong jiu-jitsu black belt, good grappling. He wanted to get you against the cage. He wanted to play the pressure game. So we knew that, hey, we're not going to just go out and like tussle with this guy. That'll be playing into his hand. So we had 3 phases: the striking phase, the cage phase, and the ground phase. And then we had 2 parts for each phase: striking going forward versus countering. And then my back on the cage versus his back on the cage. And then my back on the mat versus his back on the mat. So we had 3 areas. We never got to the other 2 areas because we weren't playing defensive game. We came out, we touched gloves, and then I started like just making my reads, started striking, and then he started pressuring. So we expected this because hey, he wants to pressure. If you look at our actual pre-fight interviews, they asked me, it's like, hey Moon, how do you think like Jackson's gonna approach this fight? I said I think he's gonna try and apply pressure, get my back to the cage, and he thinks that he's gonna try and drown me. Then they cut to his interview and he says, I'm going to try and pressure this guy. I'm going to beat him with pressure. So we already knew what his mindset is probably just based off of the footage. And we knew he would come in. So we had traps set up to where I could be aggressive, but still be aware of what he was doing. So we said, okay, I'll do some orthodox stuff. I told my team, hey, I'm going to come out in southpaw because I don't think he's used to fighting southpaws. I saw some stuff in his film, and I was like, hey, the second I come out, I'm going to come out in a southpaw stance. I'm going to circle. I'm going to see if he's going to address the open space. And when I did that, he never addressed the open space. So I knew right away, ding, that was like my number one. Okay, well, he didn't address the open space. Went back to my stance, and I knew that he would just pressure, pressure, pressure. So he pressured, pressure, pressure. And then he kept pressuring. I said, I don't want to keep being on my back foot because it looks like I'm just playing defense. So I switched to southpaw, which he never addressed the space because he didn't do it the first time. And then, boom, I hit him. Boom, boom, I hit him again. Then I saw him like trying to be aggressive. So I said, okay, I hit him. He's going to come right back in. And then I caught him coming in. So that was like part of the game plan where, hey, if he does come in and get you to the cage, then we got this to get off. We got this to take him down. But the whole focus that training camp was setting traps and me being aggressive so it doesn't have to get to whatever he's good at. But we don't ignore it. We say, hey, during training camp, you're going to work out of these positions because these are the positions he's good at. So if you are in those positions, you're not like, oh my God, like, you know, behind the ball. So that's kind of like the thought process is like an 80-20, 80% focusing on me, on what I need to do to make this guy fight my fight, and 20% on like what he aware of what he's good at and have answers for that. That way you don't feel when you get there, it's like your first time seeing it. Like, man, I should have trained this, you know?
I think that it is a very good like mindset and strategy, but sometimes there are like fighters like there was a fighter in the UFC, Cody McKenzie, who has a like great guillotine choke. He was
Yeah.
known probably with only this move. So maybe for this kind of fighter, it would be better to be focused on this one technique.
Yes.
But overall, I think that this kind of strategy, like you said, 80-20 is probably very good, and you of course got great results. So it's a proof of this.
Yeah. Yes. So that's something that like, hey, if my guy is a guillotine machine, then like, hey, my 20% will be focused. Hey, we want you defending the guillotine from a failed shot. We want you to defend in the guillotine. The guy jumps guillotine. We want you, on the top, ground and pound, and the guy breaks your posture, break guillotine from there. We want to do arm in guillotine. We want to do high elbow guillotine. We want to do S-grip guillotine. We want to do chin straps. So we'll phase through all those things and work out of the hardest position, but that's not going to be all camp is. How do you win a war just stopping the other team from beating you? You don't. Like, you got to eventually beat them. So it's like, hey, look, this is how they would get to the guillotine. Like, nobody's just standing there and guillotines you. So like, how did he get there? You got there on the cage, you got there on the ground, you got there because you failed a shot. Cool. So we'll work how you got there. And then it's like, hey, how do you win the fight? If the fight is, hey, you got a higher percent chance of winning the fight, getting him to the ground, even though he has a good guillotine, then it says, okay, push him to the cage and then use the cage to take him down by Greco wrestling. So you're higher up on the body and you use your foot trips versus, hey, this guy's really good at Greco and upper body and Sambo. Okay, well then go for the legs. Like you have to be able to pull the trigger in multiple different areas depending on what that person's good at. You make it a focal point. That way you're aware of it, but you don't make it the main thing. Otherwise, you're like giving yourself a handicap.
And in a few weeks, you will be fighting for bantamweight title. It's
Yeah.
the bantamweight division is like always a very crowded division, and of
Yes.
course in a big promotion. And what is like your plan for next 3 years? Do you plan to defend the title a few times? Maybe go for the other belt for the featherweight? What's its like main goal for you in 3 years?
I'm not really interested. Everybody's always like, "Oh, once you win your division, go up to the next weight class." I'm like, I'm not a featherweight. I'm not a featherweight. Like right now, I'm about 158 pounds, and this is 9 weeks outside of camp. So by the time I get to like closer to the fight, I'll be like 150 pounds. I'm not 148, 149. That's a 3 pound weight cut. That means these dudes I'll be fighting will be 170, 168 pounds the next day, and I'm going to be weighing 148. That's a 20-pound difference. I'm like, not interested. Maybe later on down the line or something. But as of right now, I'm like, hey, in order to cement your greatness, it's not about getting to the top of the mountain. It's about staying there. It's like, because now once you get up there, you got to defend. You got to defend. Like, to be honest, I don't have that much respect for people who win a belt and then don't defend it. You just go do something else. It's like anybody can do something one time. Like how many if you look at like the history of every division, you only remember the champions who've defended belts. You know who, like, you can't name the guys who are just holding the belt for one and done and one and done and one and done, and the next guy comes, or one and then they move and then somebody else gets the belt. Like what are we doing? Like, you got to cement your greatness as being the top of the food chain. So it's like when you think of Tyson or Ali or Roy Jones, or you think of MMA, you think of Anderson Silva. It's like, yo, he defended the belt forever. You think of Izzy, he defended the belt for a long time. You think of Volk, he defended the belt for a long time. Holloway defended the belt. Jose Aldo defended it. You think of all the greats as people who got to the top of the mountain and they realized, like, man, there's just such a separation between them and everybody underneath them. So it's like, that's who you want, at the top of the mountain, because that's going to cement your legacy. So the goal is to do my job, have the first UFL bantamweight, be the first UFL bantamweight champ, and then defend the belt, one or two times, and we'll figure out what's next after there. But I don't like to look so far ahead that I'm not focused on what's in front of me, because that's how you make it easy to stumble over yourself. It's like you're looking over there when there's an obstacle in front of you.
I agree that the like when you have a like 5 or 6 title defenses here, like really it's worth something, because it's when you are winning a belt and you want to go up, it's okay, but you are at first you are blocking a division, which is not a
Yeah,
good thing. And then
yeah,
you are a quite new king, let's say. So
yeah.
so it's probably better to defend it few times, especially that the all greats like GSP, Anderson Silva,
Yes,
Dimitrius Johnson,
yes.
they defended the title so many times, and maybe after many defenses they can think about going up to the division.
That's exactly how I like. That's how I like to think about it. Like, I don't know if you saw the fights last night, but Sean O'Malley beat beat Chito Vera, and it was a very good fight. And then afterwards, they're like, "Hey, what are you gonna do next?" He's like, "Man, I really want to go fight Ilia Topuria." I'm like, you had the title, you defended it once against the one guy who beat you, but there's a number one contender in your weight class that has been mopping the floor with everybody, with Marab. And it's like, how like, and Marab has literally been the dark horse of the bantamweight division for like 3 years. And the only reason why you didn't really recognize him is because when Aljo was there, Aljo said, "I'm not gonna fight Marab." So Marab fought everybody under him. And then when Aljo and Pidillon had their whole thing that lasted for 2 years, it's like the division's on hold. And then it's like, hey, Aljo loses, Sterling win. And I said this like on a live stream. I do watch parties for millions, and I said, how great would it be if O'Malley beats Sterling, right? Marab beats Henry Cejudo, and then Marab now is gonna like avenge Sterling's loss against O'Malley. Like, that's what makes a great fight, is you got, besides having great fighters, it's having a great story. So now it's like a whole story leading from Marab to the title. And then the first thing Sugar Sean O'Malley does is says, Ilia Topuria is a scary fighter, so I want to fight him. It's like, yeah, that's cool, but Ilia hasn't even defended his title. Like, how are you gonna just, after one defense, try and leave when you got a number one contender who legit, he's deserved a title shot since Aljo had the title, but he wouldn't fight his teammate. So it's like, if you want to cement yourself in the division, you just named it, GSP. You remember GSP. Guess what? GSP lost to Matt Serra, but Matt Serra didn't retain the title, right? It's like, who do you remember in that division? The one time GSP lost, or the 7 times he defended, or the 8 times he defended, and then comes back 4 years later and beats Michael Bisping at 185. So it's like, you could do that after you've defended and kind of like put your stamp on it, right? It's like, I think that Volk clears out the 145 division and then fights, Islam. It's like, yeah, okay, Izzy cleans out the 185 division and then fights
Jan Blachowicz.
Jan Blachowicz. So it's like, that's what you do. You defend, you leave no shadow of a doubt where after a while, people are like, God, who else is in his division that he can beat? He beat everybody in his division on his way up. He became champ. He beat the top 2 or 3 contenders. He beat some up and coming contenders. There's nobody else in his division needs to like improve. So now he's free to kind of go take a fight at the next weight class. You know, maybe something later on like that for me. But to be honest, that doesn't really like make me go like makes me go is like get the belt, defend. It's mine. This is mine. Defend it. And after I've proven that I am the best in this division and no one else or contenders, they're all shut down, then we can figure out what the next thing is. But I'm not interested in winning a belt and then looking at what's next. I tell people, like, you dance with the person who you took to the dance. Like, if I'm with a promotion and I win their belt, bring me the next guy. Let me show you why I'm your champ. Let me show you why I'm your champ, you know? And that's how I look at it. I'm like, that's like, let me ask this girl out. And then when she says yes, I'm gonna go ask another girl out. So I could be mad.
Especially that like your like in the UFC, like opponent wants somebody else. It's like Sean wants to fight Ilya wants Conor in Spain. So it's
Yeah.
like everybody like he's dreaming about something, but it's probably
Yeah.
not the best matchups.
When does it end? I want to fight you. You want to fight him. He wants to fight somebody else. It's like, come on, like that's all good. And I believe as a champ, and I believe as a fighter, you should be in control of your own career, and you do stuff for the fans, but you have to do what's best for your career too. Like, so don't get me wrong in that sense, but like, is that really best for your career to go up a weight class and fight Ilya? Like, yeah, that's a good legacy fight, but I feel like the legacy at like going up another weight class to get another belt is at the top of the pyramid. There's still work to be done on the lower part. Like, hey, you cleaned out your division, now you're champ, so now you're on that next level. Cool, you defend the belt a couple times, boom, now you start getting talked about as, hey, this guy's one of the best 135ers, you know, currently or of all time or whatever. And then saying, oh, okay, now, what do you think about him moving up to a featherweight? It's like, ooh, that sounds scary after you've laid down the foundation in these other areas. But I think like in a pyramid, like you need a big foundation. But if you just go like a ladder, like step, you miss one step, that's a long fall down. Because you lose to Ilya. Look at what happened with Volk. He lost to Islam. We're fighters, so he wants that back. I want that fight. He goes to get surgery, isn't training. They give him a short notice fight, and then after the short notice fight, he gets knocked out. Now he's like, oh, I got to get back. Gets back to 45, gets knocked out again. It's like that could send you on a very downward like spiral if you don't have this like a good foundation. But the thing about this is, just because Volk lost that fight, do you think he's not considered one of the greatest featherweights of all time? He's still considered one of the greatest featherweights of all time. So that one loss at featherweight is not gonna destroy him. But if he would have beat Max Holloway way back then, moved up to 55, lost at 55, come back to 45, lost at 45, we wouldn't be talking about Volk. It would have been, oh, Max Holloway was one of the greatest featherweights. That would have been like, what it was, because it would have been like, okay, well, how do you cement your legacy? I think defending holds a lot more credibility over the long term than just jumping.
Yes, I definitely agree. And if or when you will a championship belt, do you have a like fighter in mind outside of the UFC that you would like to face in your first defense? Of course, I think that the Justin Wetzel will be
Justin Wetzel.
a first name.
Justin Wetzel. That would be my first fight. If he's not signed to UFL, Bellator, PFL, and he's healthy or can make the date. Like I said, I don't want to look too far ahead, but I have 2 people on my list who aren't even in the UFC who I want to fight. I'm not big into calling out people, but I got 2 people on my list, and I wanted to fight Justin Wetzel because I felt like it was like it was literally meant to be. Hey, we're gonna put all y'all in the bracket. You fight one side, you fight the other side. Whoever comes out beats everybody on their side, fight each other. And I'm like, I finished my guys, he finished his guys. We got to fight. So that fight is a fight that I felt like a fight that I feel like I've earned. So that's definitely someone who I would like to fight. And then I like characters, and he's a whole character. He has the whole Dragon Ball Z thing going on with his scouter. My whole character is like, I'm Moon. So, you got the Moon and the Saiyan about to come, wreak some havoc. So that was a fight that I want. And, I'm not looking past, my current opponent. But in a perfect world, if I could pick, who I would want to fight, I would say Justin Wetzel, and then obviously I want that L back, the one L that I have on my fight career. I would like to get Diego Manzor. I would like that rematch.
So the fight against Justin just needs to happen in like a few months or years. It just meant to
Yeah,
be.
that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm like, hey, I gotta take care of what I gotta take care of. To be honest, like he's not on my head, but I'm like, in a perfect world, because you asked the question, like, hey, you go in, you do your job, you win the belt. Is there anyone you want to fight? Justin Wetzel. That's who I would want to fight. I would love to defend my belt against the #1 contender. Like, he's the #1 contender in the UFL because they had 8 bantamweights. We all fought. It was him and I. So right now he can't fight. So I will be fighting Hunter Zor. I'm super excited about that because UFC vet with wins and great record, great opponent. He's very, very tough. You ask me, hey, if you go take care of your job and you win this belt, is there anyone you want to fight next? I want that #1 contender. I want that #1 contender. If he's not available, I want the guy who I have my only loss to. That's if I'm not signed by the UFC or Bellator or PFL. Like I said, I would like to defend my belt. So win the belt, defend the belt, and then we can figure out, what goes on from there. But win the belt, I would like to defend my belt, at least once or twice. And if I had to choose, I would want #1 contenders. All right, and the #1 contender being Justin Wetzel, and or the one gentleman that I have that one loss on my record to, which is Diego Manzor. So there you go. I don't call people out, but hey,
But
we're welcome to 2024.
uh, you are like definitely not like retiring or anything. But when you are thinking about like 10 years, do you see yourself as the like full-time coach?
That's something that I think about, because I do coach, so I don't have a 9 to 5 job. Like, the only reason why we did this interview at this time is because I was coaching at the gym. I do one-on-one sessions on the weekends, but I teach group classes during the week. So I teach Muay Thai, and then I also teach Jiu-Jitsu as well as MMA. So I am coaching, and I don't know if like, I love to coach. I don't know if I want to be a fighter coach. And I'm telling you, as a fighter, fighters are fucking stupid, bro. Like, they are just, oh my God, they're so hard to deal with. And I'm a fighter, and I do my best to try and make my coaches a job and my life as easy as possible. And I've had my coaches tell me, I wish we just had a whole bunch of yous. And I'm like, man, if it was a whole bunch of me's, then I wouldn't be an individual. I would have to be like a fuck up or something, like, to be different. But like, I just hold myself to a very, very high standard, and I hold myself accountable. I remember when I had my first MMA coach ever. He trained at an MMA gym, but he competed in Muay Thai, and he would give me things to do, and I would just do it. And he'd be like, "Hey, all right, we're gonna do training after this. Go do 10 rounds on the bag, blah blah blah." And in the middle of the rounds, he would just leave the gym, not because he didn't care or whatever, but like, he'd let me know later, like, "Hey, there are gonna be times where no one's gonna be here to hold your fucking hand for every little thing that you do." And when I left, you could have chose to do those extra 5 rounds, or you could have just cut out because nobody else was watching. And a lot of times we think all the work that's being done is only the work that's being seen. And he would give me these workouts to do, not at the gym. So he would say, hey, look, tell me what your 3-mile time is. Go run 3 miles. Tell me what your time is. Boom. He's like, I don't like that time. If you're going to fight for me, you need to run in 21 minutes or under. So he says, we're going to check back in 4 weeks. I'll know if you've been running. Like, because when you come back with a time, he told me, you're not going to fight for me if this is not the time you make. Boom. So 4, 5, 6 weeks, got my time down. He's like, all right, cool. When we do our training on these days, this is what your strength and conditioning is. This is what you're going to do at the track. All right, days, I hold pads for you here. You'll spar on this day. This day, come in. He'll watch the, whole work, watch my sparring rounds, give me stuff to do on the bag. But he never held my hand. And the more I started fighting and stuff like that, the more I started realizing like a lot of people want to fight because it looks cool until they have to dedicate the actual time and attention to all the things that we take for granted. I'm like, yo, when you're fighting, you're not going to be spending time with your family. If you got a girlfriend, it's going to put a stressor on your relationship because you're going to be tired all the time. If you got a full-time job because you're fighting, no one makes money fighting until you've dedicated 10 plus years to fighting. And then you can start making money with sponsorships and ticket sales and t-shirt sales and all those other things. But that still takes time. You need a manager. You need a this, you need a that. So you got to learn how to do a lot of work on your own and hold yourself accountable. And a lot of fighters are not, don't hold themselves accountable, make a lot of excuses, not very professional, don't have good attitudes. Then on the flip side of that, you got a lot of students who don't want to fight. And to be honest, those are the students that I'm more interested in, because so far, everybody that's ever told me they want to fight, they're not here. All the students that told me they want to just improve at martial arts, they're still at the gym. We get an occasional, guy or girl that comes in and I'm like, man, they'll be good. And you got to remember, before you dedicate all your time to someone, you got to see them dedicating their own time, and then you can help them out. So I am going to be coaching, because martial arts is what I'm going to do before and after, while I'm fighting, but after I'm done like competing in the cage, I'm still going to coach, but I don't know if I'm going to be like, have a stable of fighters. Like, yeah, I got 7 fighters. Coach Moon's going to be like a good coach. I'm like, I don't know about that. Maybe we have 1 or 2 people from our gym who dedicate some serious time over the course of years and show it's something that they want to do. I'll be there for them. I will be there to coach them. But that's not what my current thought process is. Like, be a great fighter and then be a great fight coach. Not a great fight coach. I want to be a great coach, a great instructor, martial arts instructor. If part of being a great martial arts instructor is instructing fighters, or being a part of a part of my fight team as a coach in there, then yes, I will do that. But it's not something I'm like planning out. Like, ooh, after a fight, I'm gonna be like Faraz Sahabi or like Danaher or freaking any of the Trevor Whitman. That's not like what my thought process is. My thought process is give everything you have to fighting and martial arts, and after you deal with that, you can figure out what's next. Because I know I'm gonna coach, but depending on if I'll be like a fight coach, I don't know about that. Like I said, to be honest, fighters are assholes.
But probably it's also a very cool thing just to like learn martial arts, because it's like give you some like discipline, some values.
Yes.
So especially for young people, I think that it's a very very good thing. You don't need to be like you said, a fight coach, but just to give them the knowledge, the experience, and of course the discipline which comes with martial arts.
Yes, that's currently what I do right now with martial arts. I have like, so I did 4 private sessions today. 2 were adults. 1 was a kid, 6 years old. Like, he's 6-year-old doing privates, right? And another one is 11 or 12. So the 11, 12-year-old did Muay Thai. The 6-year-old did jiu-jitsu because he's competing this weekend, and I'm going to be coaching him at the competition. And I'm like, I don't want, like, I'm not this kid's dad. I'm this kid's coach. I do love all my students and stuff like that. But I'm like, if he can get anything out of the instructions that I'm giving him, is going to be discipline, control, learning the right things to do in martial arts, being a good human being. And I can do that through my teaching. But now he's getting ready for a competition, and it's his first competition. So like now I'm giving him the little fight side of me, like, hey, all right, hey, are you nervous? He's like, yeah, I'm a little nervous. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, be first, be aggressive. Like, you know, like you have like the hunter and the prey, and I want you to be the hunt. Doesn't mean the hunter doesn't get nervous, right? Like, there's a monster, be the monster, right? Don't be afraid of the monster. Be the monster. Like, the same nerves you're feeling is the same nerves the other kids feeling. So the way to get rid of that is to be first and be aggressive. And then when you end up in these positions, just think this, do this. So now I can give like my fight knowledge to a 6 or 7 year old, and it's kind of turning into like a really good thing. And it starts with discipline and self-control, because at our academy, our ethos, or our motto is respect, courage, and discipline. So when I'm like, hey, what's our motto? He's like, respect, courage, and discipline. I'm like, discipline is about what kind of control? He says self-control. All right, is it better to be first or correct? He says to be correct. I'm like, what's the best? To be first and correct. So like, these are things that reign true in the fight game, but they reign true in the real world. So I can give him my fight knowledge through the martial arts. And regardless if he wants to compete or just wants to do it just as a hobby or get better at it, he's still gonna come out on top. So that's kind of like what I currently do with my students, regardless if it's the kids classes or the adults, and just kind of blend what I learned from fighting into the actual martial arts, because I'm using martial arts in fighting. Martial, like, this is something deadly that we're using in an art form. So it's like, hey, we can use the fighting to teach martial arts, and we can use martial arts to teach fighting. And that's how kind of like I teach and treat my students and things like that.
And you are like working with platform Million CO. And if you can
Yeah.
tell me more about it and how fans all over the world can support you.
Yes. So thanks to my manager put me in contact with the company called Millions.co, and they really do a great job of helping athletes brand themselves and focus on what athletes are good at. Athletes are good at being athletes. That's why people like them, right? Like, hey, this guy's a good fighter. This guy's a good boxer, a good baseball player. You're good at that sport because you dedicate a lot of time to it. But there are a lot of areas where athletes don't really take advantage of. And part of that is merchandise, live streaming, memorabilia, getting booked for events. These are things that athletes should be capitalizing on if you are a professional athlete. And Millions does that for the athletes. They provide a platform where they have a design team, they have contacts with other big companies to do sponsorships. So if you're doing good on the Millions platform, they might say, hey, look, we have a Powerade sponsorship or a Tostito sponsorship, or we want to work with Incrediwear, or we're looking like they're trying to work with a non-alcoholic beer company. And I was like, hey, that's kind of perfect because I'm in fight camp, so I don't really go out or hang out or do this. But I do get tired of drinking water all the damn time. And on the weekends, like when I'm watching the fights, I do have my F3 Energy sponsorship that I have through the United Fight League, but I'm not drinking energy drinks at 11 p.m. at night. So I'm like, sometimes I just want a snack or something to like kind of just feel like I'm just chillaxing. So they're like, hey, look, this company does non-alcoholic beers that taste like IPAs and this, that, and the third. So they put me in contact with them. I would have never known to contact them, and I wouldn't have had that contact information. So they also help provide opportunities for fighters to get sponsorships, to do live watch parties, and to do online events. And it's like, with everything moving towards online, if I had a seminar and you couldn't make it in person, but you wanted to attend the seminar, you could do that through Millions. You can go ahead and join the live feed and be live in person and get all the same information in the seminar that everybody else paid to get. So they provide a very professional platform for athletes to kind of maximize it's called in the United States, it's called NIL, name, image, and likeness. And it's like, hey, you monetize that by making shirts and doing live streams. And like, I have my 2 pair of my fight gloves for my UFL 1 and UFL 2. I'm a UFL 1 and UFL 3, which was the tournaments when I get this last pair, I'm gonna put it on there as a memorabilia. So if anybody wants the bantamweight collection, this is the first UFL bantamweight champ ever, and you're gonna get the gloves and the hand wraps all personally signed. I'm gonna do a video signing the gloves so you can see me sign, and I'll do a personalized video. You get to do all this through Millions. So it's like, how long would it take the guy who doesn't know how to set any of this up to do it? I'm not even gonna guess. I'm spending most of my time in the gym training. So Millions allows that platform to where they also have teams to help you out. Like I told them, hey, I have a title fight coming up in April 27th. They said, hey, look, we'll make content for you as well, because that's what they do. And then when they put the content out and I share it, and they share it with me, it might reach 30, 40,000 people versus when I put it out, it might reach 1,000, 2,000. So they help get you further reach. They help boost your content, and you guys are on the same team. So they're like, hey, the more you do with us, the more that they'll do with you, and provide more opportunities. They're based out of Canada. So I also get some, I get some coverage in the northern part of, obviously, North America, but like in the Canada area as well. And I actually had a title opportunity to go fight in Canada. They wanted me to go fight a gentleman in Canada for a bantamweight title. And that kind of goes back to what we talked about before, is like, I just fought for the UFL and I want to fight for their title. I don't want to just leave them to go fight for another title, because it's like, hey, you were fighting with us, so why don't you get our title? I'm like, if I got my title first and defend it, then yeah, maybe I can go fight for Canadian, the title for Canada as well. So just they provide a lot of opportunities to help market the fighters and use their NIL, their name, image, and likeness to expose their brand to sponsors, to other athletes. They connect athletes as well. So it kind of just really, it boosts your exposure as an athlete. And part of being a professional athlete is having big exposure. The more people know about you, the more opportunities you got. So that's exactly what Millions does. Super professional, and you don't have to worry about any of the algorithms. Like if you're on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or whatever, and maybe you didn't see my post in a while, so you don't know what's going on, you don't have to worry about that. You go directly to Millions. It costs nothing to sign up as a fan. Go follow your favorite MMA or favorite athletes, and then you can contact them directly through Millions. So
yes, probably a great thing to
yeah.
be on.
Yes. I always encourage. I'm like, hey, if you're a professional athlete and you're serious about your career, not like, oh, I'm just, I'm being a professional athlete, I have another job, but I'm just doing it because I like it the way it does. I'm like, yeah, maybe it's not for you. But if you're a person, you're like, hey, I'm all in. I want to be one of the best martial artists in the world, or I'm gonna be the best 135er ever. I want to fight for the UFC, Bellator, PFL, or you're a professional boxer, professional baseball player, whatever. You're like, hey, look, this is gonna help take your brand to the next level. I highly recommend, athletes to contact Millions. If they don't contact you, they contacted my manager, so they contacted me, and then he made the connection between us. So
in your free time, let's say that you will be after your fight against Hunter, do you like to let's say watch some movies, listen to podcasts, read a book? Do you have a things this kind of things that you like to do when you are not fighting, when you are not like super focused on your like MMA goal?
yes, so books. I have my own personal like little library, my own little collection of books. I read almost every day, about every day. If it's for me, I'm not like, oh, I have to read a lot. It's more about like, hey, when I read stuff, go apply it. So I don't read necessarily a lot, but I might read a chapter or a couple pages of a book. I really am into stoicism, philosophy, psychology, martial arts, obviously. But read books, and then this right here is my DVD collection. So exactly what you said. I love movies. Movies always telling a story. So I'll read books, movies. I like to train. I also enjoy training. So when I do have free time, maybe like sometimes do a little bit of traveling and training at other gyms, making new connections. But travel, train, coffee. If I can frequent a coffee shop with a nice book, get a nice cup of coffee, read a book, see a good movie, get some training in, travel, get some good food. My life is pretty much, Like that's like my high life. I tell people like my high life isn't like really going out and like, oh, I want to go hit a club or hit this party up. That's cool every now and then. But as far as like the majority of like chill stuff, I like to go do things and be like active. So I'm like, that's cool every now and again. Like the nightlife, I'll do that every now and again. But when I got free time, I'm like, ooh, let me go train to this place. Let me go see where I can go train at, out of state or out of the country. Let me see if I can make some new connections, go find some local coffee shops, some local good food, get a book, watch a movie, go play some pool, find some water to get into. Keep it simple.
Yes, but it's probably like came with like maturity, because when people are young, like students, that they want to party,
Yeah.
they want to have a good time, but later on it's like the different things. It's like there are more interesting than just partying or drinking.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. Every now and then I'll go out with friends and we'll have a night out on the town, or like me, my best friend and my little brother, we basically go either to another state every year. So like, hey, we're gonna go, like first time we did it was like, hey, we're gonna do something here in Georgia. And the next time I was like, okay, we went to Denver and we spent like 4 days in Denver. But while we was in Denver, we went hiking, we stopped at the Easton BJJ Training Center, so I got to be on the mats and train, and I saw Justin Gaethje and Curtis Blades and Corey Sandhagen. So even though I left, I still got training in. Hit up a bunch of local coffee shops, and then we ended up going out and like partying like one of the nights. But it was just like because we were just out of town hanging out, wanted to see what the nightlife was like. But like for the most part, it was just like pretty chill. And like I do those things every now and then. It's just not the majority of what I do. I like to have a good time and let loose, but for the most part, I spend so much energy and time like training and stuff like that. I kind of enjoy like not having to do that like for the job purpose. I do it as enjoyment. So like I have like a little bit more relaxing hobbies because my fight life is chaotic enough as it is. And then every now and then when I feel like I need to unwind, then I'll like get into some crazy stuff, go to a festival or ball or rave or a night out or whatever. But that's every once in a blue moon.
Also, I have a few questions outside of fighting.
Okay.
If you were guaranteed the answer to one question, so you have a question, you are asking somebody a question, and you are sure that you will get a correct answer, what kind of question would you like to ask?
What's gonna happen when I die? I want to know what's up because like I'm not like hurt that I don't know because nobody really like can present factual evidence. But if we all believe in the law of energy, the law of energy states that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only transferred from one thing to the next. That means when my body dies, the energy that's in my body will go somewhere. I'd like to know where it goes.
Yeah, yes, with this kind of question, like this is probably like your answer is maybe not the correct one because there are you can think about many things, but it's like I thought about the same thing because it's
Yeah.
probably this and at this point the most interesting thing.
Yeah, it is. I feel like to want to know what's on the other side. Obviously, once you get to the other side, if there is other side, you got to deal with whatever you got to deal with when you're there. But I'm like, to actually know what's on the other side, like everything is connected. Your part of your body, like your particles, are from the actual universe and stars, and like everything is connected. It's like I want to know that I'm a part of everything. Like when my body just goes away, what happens to the energy that keeps my body alive? Like what's on that other side? Well, I'll deal with it when I get there, but I'd like to know. I'm very like I think about stuff like that all the time, man. I love stuff like that. I follow all these like science pages and like I had an obsession with Nikolai Tesla growing up and like all kind of like scientific experiments and conspiracies or all that kind of stuff. I absolutely love that kind of stuff. So I'm always like, yeah, what's next? What's this? What's that? So if I could get to answer to any question, it'd be something like that.
And what like let's say 3 words would you like to have on your grave? It can be 3, it can be 5, but like what kind of either motto or like the description of yourself would you like to see?
Man, I can't. I want to say these words, but these are my best friend. I think, does he have it tattooed on him? I think he does. He has memento mori. It's like, remember that you die. It's like the fact that we're all gonna die. How you live is what makes you special. Because the fact that we all die, it doesn't matter. So you have to make an impact while you're alive. And one of my favorite books, The Instant Millionaire by Mark Fisher. One of my favorite books of all time. It's the one that kind of started a chain reaction to me reading and just like developing a different mindset. There's a young gentleman who wants to become rich, so he seeks out this instant millionaire, and the instant millionaire basically puts him through a whole bunch of trials and tests to see if this guy is going to be willing to sacrifice what it takes to become a millionaire, because everybody says they're willing to sacrifice whatever it is to get the thing they want until you have to sacrifice it. And so the guy's going through all these crazy, it's not even crazy trials, he's just putting him through all these mind games. And he's like, trying to make him realize that he's in control of his life and he's in control of his brain. But right now he doesn't know that his brain is his biggest obstacle. And he says, when you feel overwhelmed and you don't know what to do and you want to realize you're in control, I need you to say the saying. And if I'm not mistaken, it's Psalms. It's one of the books in the Bible. It says, "Be still and know that I am God." And that's to say, basically, just remain still and know that you're in control. And I also like to think of that like one step further, like if you're a religious person and you believe that you're made in the image of God, then there's a bit of God in you. And if there's a bit of God in you, there's a bit of humanity in God. So there's got to be a two-way street. So when you feel like you're losing control, and you be still and know that I'm God. Be still and remember that you're God. Remember that you're in control. All right. And then like that, and then like memento mori would be like, remember that you die. They're like, so live every day. And then the opposite saying to that is like, memento vivir or something like that. It's an old Latin saying, but I like remember that you die, because people say, oh yeah, I'm living another day, YOLO. Look, you only live one. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but remember that you're gonna die. You could die today, you could die tomorrow, 5 minutes, 5 hours. You're here today, gone today. So if you remember that death is awaiting for all of us, go out and live today like it's your last. So those would be like it.
It's a good advice, just to, when you want to do something, do it now, not in 1 year or 10 years, because maybe it won't happen.
Yeah. I think about the moment I'm at right now, and I remember before my first fight ever, my coach was preparing me for a fight. He said, man, I want you to like go in a dark room, close your eyes, turn on your walkout music, and I want you to picture yourself walking to the cage. It's dark. All you see is the blue lights on the main pathway. The announcers announcing your name. Amun, woo. The crowd's going crazy. Maybe they love you, or maybe you're fighting in another country. Maybe they hate you. Like, feel whatever you need to feel to like be in that moment. And to me, that's be still and know that I am God. Be still. Focus. Your brain doesn't know the difference between subconscious and conscious. Like, it's just, I put myself in that moment and I started getting goosebumps, and I would think about that moment over and over and over. And I remember my pro debut, my coach is like, we're about to walk out, and I had sold out the venue. And he looks at me, he's like, you nervous? And I'm like, nah, not really. Because my first fight ever, he told me, he said, hey, nervousness and excitement have the same physiological response of the body. So if you're nervous, turn it into excitement. It's the same feeling you feel on a roller coaster. You're nervous, and then when you go, oh my God, like, so he's like, hey, turn your nerves into excited. Because when you're nervous, you get sweaty, your heart rate gets up, you get like, little jittery. But the same thing happens when you're excited. So if you're nervous, tell yourself you're excited. like, feel excited about this moment that you chose, because you don't have to fight. You could not fight today, but you chose to be here. So be excited about it. So like my pro debut, like we're just sitting back and he's like, you excited? And he's like, he's a very interesting guy. He's being a little bit of an asshole. I'm like, yeah, I'm not nervous. I'm excited. He's like, this is what every kid's dream is, right? Like, you're finally here. So he's doing that to kind of just see. And I was like, yeah, like we made it. And I was like, that's just the only one thing I have to do. It's like, let's go do the work. Let's go have some fun. And then walked out. And before we walked out, the announcers announcing my name, and I couldn't even hear my music because I wanted to walk out to the music. And I'm like, I don't even hear my music. And then the attendant comes back. He's like, yo, it's time to go. I'm like, I don't hear my music. I go out and the crowd is going so nuts that they drowned out my walkout music. So I didn't hear the music. And it was like I was having a third person experience. I'm like, I'm walking in the cage and it's like I could almost see myself. Like I remember it. Boom. And I'm like, I already thought about this moment for years before my pro debut. And in my head, I was fighting for a big promotion. And I'm like, it's for a title. And now it's here. So I'm like, I already knew I was here, 8, 9, 10 years ago when I first started training, because that's what my thought process on where I would be. And like that stillness, be still and know that I'm God. It's like, I'm in control. It's like, hey, I'm in control of my destiny, where I go from here. And in order to do that, you got to get up every day and you got to do it today, because tomorrow's not promised. I could have quit a long time ago, but every day I chose to live one more day, one more day, one more day. And I did that all the way to this opportunity for this title fight. And now it's just time for me to go out there and perform. Just have a good time for me now.
And one last thing, what is like your, because it's like still beginning of the year, what is like the main goal for you in this year? It can be either like as the MMA fighter or overall as the human being.
All right, the overall, like my 3 goals this year. Number 1 is do my job, be the first UFL bantamweight champ, and defend. Not just get it and go, be it, defend it. Show that I am number 1. All right. Number 2 is for my fight career to take the leap to where I'm not so financially dependent on making money only when I fight. Because it's very hard as a fighter to say, oh, if you fight 2 or 3 times a year, you only get paid during this time, and then you got to go back and pay yourself for 4 or 5 months. It's a very hard thing to do. And I'm on the cusp of, having 1 or 2 really good fights to be able to change that for me. So making it a sustainable career, not just something, oh, you make a little bit of money when you fight and then you got to save it for 4 or 5 months. And then like, no, I want to be able to use my NIL, my name, image, and likeness through fighting to provide for me and my family and my friends. All right. And the third part is to be a better man and a better coach, for those around me. That's like part of my martial arts journey is growth. Like you always got to have a growth mindset, and you have to be a student. And part of being a good instructor and a good coach and a good man is being a good leader, is also being a good student. You have to learn these things. So on my journey where I'm taking things in, I'm giving it to my students, my family, and my friends and stuff right away. That way I can continue to develop as a man and have my group around me that also helps pick me up when I'm down, or push me when I can't even push myself, or pull me when I need a little bit of assistance. They're all around me helping me out. So if I'm the best version of me that I can be, I can improve their lives. And intend we'll just keep doing this until there is no more life. Memento mori, right?
So definitely interesting goals, because the probably the first one, it's like definitely doable, and it will happen maybe against Justin. Like the second fight, it would be like probably the great end of this year, of this story.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. Like your life is a story, and depending on how it's written, is like you have to take part in that, right?
Okay, Moon. So many thanks for the conversation. I think that many people would be will be really interested in your bout because you are a like great fighter and you are fighting against like really experienced veteran. So I think
Mm.
that is always like cool like collision of like
Yeah.
fighters. Like one is like UFC veteran and one is not. It's like always interesting to see. And I hope that you will get this belt and get another win also this year in the UFL.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it.